climate crisis on the agenda. Stellenbosch University has announced the establishment of a new school for climate studies.
It will be launched in June. Deputy Vice-Chancellor for Research, Innovation and Postgraduate Studies, Professor Eugene Klutter, joins us now from the beautiful Stellenbosch this morning. Professor, thank you so much for joining us. I suppose it was only a matter of time that this would become a standalone body of work that students would be able to study and spend their many hours of research on, because it is really what the world needs now, isn't it?
Oh, you're absolutely correct. We've been doing research in a variety of different ways on climate, but it's become necessary to actually put this into a standalone school. It's the first of its kind. It will have the same status as a faculty at the university, and the 120-odd masters and PhD students that we have in this field at the moment will all be together then in all of the different disciplines.
Prof, we had an interview yesterday morning. I'm sure that you're all too aware, based on where you are, the Cape Town wildfires. And we spoke to someone who's specialising in climate change and talking, I think it was, Cape Town is 2 degrees warmer on average than it was it 100 years ago, or whatever the marker was? And if ever there was an importance for the understanding of climate change as a study, as a science, we've seen the effects of that firsthand this last week, haven't we?
Yeah, no, absolutely. What we underestimate is that unlike the COVID-19 crisis, there is no vaccine for climate change. If this gets out of hand, it will have devastating consequences. In fact, we're already experiencing some of those devastating consequences as we speak. The increase in temperature, as you've just mentioned, the intensity of fires, not only here in the Stellenbosch and in South Africa, but in fact worldwide. A 1 degree increase in temperature worldwide will affect the lives of millions of people. I mean, as we speak, people are migrating as a consequence of climate change all over the world. There's an overshoot of the capacity of this planet to support us by about 25%. So if we don't act drastically, I'm afraid there's not a bright future for humankind.
And I suppose we live in a time where we still have to tell people, actually, we do need to believe in science. Here's the evidence for what scientist A and B is working on. We still have to have this conversation. I mean, it actually boggles the mind. I mean, you mentioned earlier, you've got postgraduate students, obviously, who will now fall under the umbrella of this new school of climate studies. Many will be watching now and wondering, though, what happens to students who are coming straight out of school. Will they be able to enter that school, and how do they do that?
Yeah. Well, the part of the vision that we have for the school is that every one of the students that graduate from Stellenbosch University will have a very good understanding of the challenges that we face in terms of climate change. They end up in leadership positions in the government, in the civil service, in companies. They have to have the tools to make the right decisions as we go forward. I do find that the young people are far more conscious about climate change than the older generation. They realize how severe this is. They are already changing their lifestyles, which I reckon is going to be very, very important. It's not only going to be the training that will make a difference with the ecology, but also social change. We will have to change the way that we, in fact, live.
Prof, I think you're right. The younger generation are, I think a large majority are starting to understand the effects, I think because it's the world that they're going to be living in, the damage already done. I'm curious, though, Prof, to understand the international collaboration. South African universities often cited as leading institutions. We all know about the SKA and the satellites and all the kind of research that they're doing as well. The telescopes is the word I was looking for. International collaboration on this, it's a global issue. I imagine you're going to take this global, aren't you?
No, there's no doubt about that. We are the only university in Africa that has been invited to join the Global University Alliance on Climate. It's about 16 universities, leading universities like Oxford University, Cambridge, MIT, and so on. And the idea there is to set an example and, first of all, to start working on a carbon-free campus. green campus. And we will down the line as Stellenbosch University, but also Stellenbosch the town. We plan to be off the grid within the next 10 years. But that international collaboration is important. We also host the Africa Research University Alliance Center of Excellence in renewable energy. These are 18 universities in Africa that we collaborate with. And then just very recently, we also established, on request of the African Union Development Agency, a Center of Excellence in Science and Innovation. It's the only Center of Excellence of its kind on the African continent. We will also work with other institutions, of course, in South Africa, with industry, with the Department of Energy, which we already work with, the Department of Science and Innovation. This is not something you can do on your own. The idea that we have, and our Center for Complex Systems in Transition, are working on a model where what you can do at a very, very localized area, how to multiply and escalate this exponentially so that the effect is actually exponential across the world.
Prof, just in closing, are there plans for you to offer an undergrad degree with the School for Climate Studies, and how will that play its way out?
Yeah, no, that is on the agenda. It will take about a year to get this going, and then students will be able to enroll already at the undergraduate level.
Sure.
It will be a multidisciplinary program, of course, because what you need here, you need a legal framework, so our law faculty will be involved, the economy is important, the green economy,
media,
science with all the technology and so on, engineering, agriculture, the social sciences, like I mentioned. Technology alone will not get us out of trouble. It's going to take a huge amount of social change and the way that we live. And we're looking forward to our first students in this regard also at the undergraduate level.
And so are we as well, and I'm sure the media are going to want to be part of this as well. So all of those studies and experts, I think at the media as well, we're quite important in this fight. Professor Eugene Klutter, Deputy Vice-Chancellor for Research, Innovation and Postgraduate Studies. There's quite a title. Stellenbosch University, that gets underway in June. It's desperately needed, and I think it'll make a huge difference.
And I feel like young people, especially as he mentioned, young people are far more open to the need for us to put our weight behind the scientists who are leading the way here. They're going to be flocking to the university to try and get a qualification in that regard. And like you said, you know, people, media practitioners, as it were, who've got a qualification like this are also as important, because the storytelling in that realm is very, very important going forward from an educational point of view.
That's how we all